Hey guys,
Hey,
we didn't really have any show notes or anything. We're just kind of doing this off the cuff. We're waiting for Tony. Tony's getting briefed by the federal government right now. We just wanted to, kind of touch, touch on what happened today. I'm sure everyone who's watching is aware, but a whole list of guns came down on prohibition based on this document, the Canada Gazette file.
so we have the regulations prescribe the firearms set out below as prohibited firearms and also specifically prescribe the known variants of the principal models. Now, it is quite a freaking list. It's I think they basically went through the FRT table and listed every firearm that was listed, because the way the FRT is designed is they've got, say, AR-15, and then underneath AR-15 class of firearms, they have every make model of that firearm that has an FRT, and they listed every single one.
Yeah.
But we've got the M16, the AR-10, and AR-15 rifles, and the M4 carbine.
Yeah. Well, whereas the M16 and M4 have been banned for years.
Yeah. So we've got the Ruger Mini 14, and the Mini 30 actually falls under a subclass as a derivative of the Mini 14. The U.S. rifle M14. Now, I had a lot of hope that they were talking about the 12.1 and 12.2 class firearms, or 12.1 and 12.3 class firearms, but no, they list them all. Every single. Well, it's funny. They list them all, but they don't list the M14 Medic firearms receiver. So I'm not sure.
Oh, there you go.
But it's also the M14 Medic firearms receiver is a derivative. Like it's not its own unique design. It's off somebody else's design, right? The VZ58, the Rob Arms XCR, the CZ Scorpion Evo 3 carbines and pistols, the Beretta CX4 Storm carbine, the Sig Sauer Sig MCX, the Sig Sauer Sig MPX carbine and pistol, and the Swiss Arms Classic Green and Four Seasons series as specified in former Bill C-71. So here's the funny thing: is Bill C-71 and certain acts and regulations in relation to firearms was never put into force, and they've already changed the classification of those firearms.
Yeah. And BCL 102. Surprisingly, they don't list other NRs like.
Oh, well, there's a piece in the back of this thing. I haven't gone through the whole thing yet. I just haven't had the time. There's a bit there where they say subject to further amendments as the as cabinet sees fit. So they can edit this as they see fit. So previous classifications of newly permitted firearms models, the principal model. The M16, AR-10, AR-15, M4 carbine, which represent one family of firearms commonly known as the AR platform, mostly restricted, some non-restricted. The Mini 14 rifle, mostly non-restricted, some restricted. The VZ58 rifle, mostly non-restricted, some restricted. The U.S. rifle M14, non-restricted, it says. Well, it's funny they say that, but I have two that are registered restricted, but whatever.
Yeah.
The Beretta CX4 Storm carbine, restricted and non-restricted. The Rum Arms XCR, mostly non-restricted, except for, I guess, the pistols, or the pistols still staying restricted.
Well, they haven't touched on pistols.
So the CZ Scorpion. What about our AR pistols? Anyways, CZ Scorpion Evo 3 carbine.
Well, now they did on the list I saw. LAR 10 and LAR 15s are on the list. So.
And also, all upper receivers are now going to become prohibited devices. So, any one of these platforms, these nine rifles, or these 9 platform, whoever they're talking about. So here's a funny one: firearms capable of discharging a projectile with a muzzle energy greater than 10,000 joules. So I had to do some conversion to figure out what the fuck a joule was and how many joules are what. 10,000 joules is 7,800 foot-pounds.
Yeah.
So a 338 Lapua, and I edged it a little high at 3,000 feet per second, and a 300 grain projectile is just shy of the prohib of 10,000 joules. So the 338 Lapua is okay, but the 50 BMG is gonzo, and they list like a payload of different 50 BMGs.
Which has never been used in a crime in North America, to my...
Well, you know, what's funny, of all the 1,500 individual model numbers in this document,
300 are rocket launchers.
Yeah, that and 3 in particular models have been used in the commission of a crime in Canada, and those 3 models are in the list, and a whole bunch of other ones with them. But all 3 of them were used by somebody who was not legally, who was already breaking the law by having possession of that firearm and using it to commit a crime. So what I can't, okay, so I don't know. It blows my mind. It's like saying some guy in Yellowknife was drunk driving and he killed somebody, and he was driving a Chevy half-ton. So therefore, all quarter tons, half tons, and 3/4 tons are now prohibited for destruction. That's what this is akin to.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind.
Yeah, it's, you know, we wanted Tony to come on here to just kind of give some clarity on this. And unfortunately, he got pulled into a federal government briefing. He'll join as soon as he's done. So we're going to kind of BS our way through this right now. So sorry, guys. For those of you who are watching, Tony will join us soon. We tried to work around his schedule, but as you can imagine, he's super busy. And that's why Tracy and Rod weren't able to come on either. So anyway, back to the topic. So Matt Shirley here has a question. Same boat. We're all in the same boat. We took advantage of those that DPMS Panther deal, AR-15 from Bullseye London. Ordered an AR 3 weeks ago. Yesterday it was still processing, and today it says shipped. Now I can't cancel it. Will I still be able to take to the range?
The answer to that question no. The answer to that question is no. So I called the CFO, the Saskatchewan CFO, to ask that question. I have a transfer that was pending, and apparently that transfer went through on the 28th. Whether or not that firearm has shipped or not from where it's coming from, I have no idea. But the person selling it to me has to ship it to me because it's my property. Yeah. Apparently the certificate was already created saying it was restricted. They are now going to be changing that certificate to prohibited. So that means that that firearm is currently in my possession, or I own it, but I don't currently have it in my possession because it's either where it's coming from or it hasn't been shipped yet. I'm not 100% sure, but I was informed that the restricted firearms, because they're already registered, they know I have them, that I will be receiving a letter in the mail from the RCMP outlining what my options are for my restricted firearms that are now prohibited. Now, I'm not 100% sure and then here's what I think is probably going to happen. Just like when you order a new certificate, they're not going to send you one letter with a bunch of different firearms listed on it. They're going to generate one letter for each firearm that has a restricted classification that is now changed to prohibited, and you'll get that in the mail. So to answer Mr. Shirley's question, I actually asked the CFO this question. So can I still take my firearms to the range and shoot them? And she told me that I no longer have valid certificates for the restricted firearms in my possession because the certificates that I have say restricted. So that's a fundamental change now to those certificates. Those certificate numbers are no longer valid. They're no longer attached to my authorization to transport. So therefore, I cannot take those firearms to the range. Now, under the amnesty, there is provision to continue using your newly prohibited firearm for subsistence hunting, and only for so therefore, if it was restricted to begin with, and they know you have it, you can't take it to the range and you can't shoot it, and the RCMP will be sending you a letter eventually telling you what you can and can't do with it. And by the sounds of it, it sounds like the one thing they did tell me was that if I can export it to the U.S., I'd have to get an export certificate, find a buyer in the States, and sell it to somebody in the States. But that could be an option for some of my firearms, but quite a few of my firearms are not allowed in the States because they weren't manufactured in the States in the first place, and that's the problem with the way the laws are written down there. The reason why Sig Sauer has a facility in the United States of America to assemble firearms is because Sig Sauer isn't allowed to export firearms directly to the U.S. from Europe.
Okay.
So that's
Sorry, I'm going to elaborate on the hunting part, John.
Sure, by all means.
Reading it from the document, guys. Modern treaty obligations and indigenous engagement and consultation. The amnesty order permits the use of any of the newly prohibited firearms, if previously non-restricted, to hunt for the purposes of sustenance or to exercise a right recognized and affirmed by Section 35 of the Constitution. That's it. So if you don't hold a treaty card, you're pooched. That way. And that's essentially it. And then what John was saying about the exports, you still can, but you have to have an export license, and good luck getting that. So,
yeah, how the hell are you supposed to manage that?
You can't. It's a done deal, and the only way that we can fight back, and we're not going to advocate for not following the law, guys. We are all.
Fuck, no kidding.
And I hate this term, but we are law-abiding firearms owners. But, we have to vote these guys out. That's the only way. There's no class action lawsuit we can do. There's no court injunction. There's no charter right program, because firearms aren't a right in Canada. They're a privilege. And we have to vote these guys out. And speaking to a couple MPs today, I'm not going to name names.
Pussy.
I want to know where the hell the opposition is on all this.
Well, and they
all
were part
of this
of
stuff.
Let's put it this way: they were part of the opposition party, okay, the majority opposition party, but they can't do anything because, like, even processing a vote of non-confidence would not work because the Liberals have the backing of the Bloc Québécois and the NDP, and that gives them majority, right?
Fucking
So
time to go.
It's a shit sandwich, and right now we're eating it, and that's all we can do. We have to, and guys, I'm gonna, yes, this is very upsetting. We are all emotional today, but the antis and non-gun owners that are looking at us right now, trying to understand what just happened, we need to take a very professional and proactive approach and not lose our ever-living shit here, because because a lot of people don't know the law, and a lot of people don't know what guns are already prohibited and what just is prohibited now. And our job as gun owners are to educate those guys, whether you're part of the CCFR, CSSA, NFA, whatever. That's how it is. And, yes, non-compliance would be a solution. But
it is a solution, regardless of
laws, guys. And I don't know. I'm at a loss.
Professionalism is the key here, though.
Yeah,
because you give one quip of that perceived radical right wing, whatever the fuck they want to call it. It's just fuel for the left. There'll be a whole bunch of finger pointing and I told you so. That's exactly what these people are like. They're dangerous, shit like that. And and I've seen lots of it already that, getting into the sort of the NRA style, from my cold dead hands and come get them and all this kind of shit is not going to do anything in our favor.
No.
We have to approach this with a maintained high level of professionalism. Those cocksuckers on the other side are no better than we are.
So in a lot of cases, we have to do the exact opposite of what the Liberal Party of Canada is doing. Is what you're saying?
Precisely. Absolutely precisely.
Let's get back to some of these listener questions here. We have one from Marlene McKnight, or Marlene Knight. I have a question. My husband was looking to purchase a pistol carbine that has a kit to change caliber. Am I safe in assuming that this will no longer be an option with this ban? I have no idea. Right now, I don't think there's any pistol caliber carbines unless they're based on an AR platform that are currently being prohibited. It's uncertain. There's nobody has a crystal ball to see.
So the ones that were listed that were pistol caliber, the SIG Scorpion, that's one. And to my knowledge, that is it, unless it's an AR style modified.
Derivative. Yeah, like my pistol caliber carbine's an AR-15.
Whereas the Freedom Ordnance FX9 was not listed.
The Thompson Center wasn't, or the Thompson Center, the Thurian Defense, the Just Right carbine, those are all still legal firearms. Now, you know what? I think I'm just going to make a decision at this point to not mention any more that they didn't catch.
we exactly.
Well, guys, let's not play dumb here. They know, and you know, it's not that they don't. They know what's out there. So it's not us not talking about it is not going to solve anything, John. I'm sorry.
You're right. But I just don't feel like pointing out the inaccuracies of their legislation. We got PGB Canuck here says, curious if bullpups are now banned. They are not. None of the bullpup.
I didn't see a single one.
Not a single one. Oscar says, I think the 460 Weatherby is 8,000 feet per second. I actually did the math on a buddy of mine's 378 Weatherby mag. And he is 350 foot-pounds under the 10,000 joules. So, which is nice. Luke Godden, Wexit is looking good.
You fucking right, it is.
No fucking.
Well,
right.
You know what? At this point, I think that's the only real answer. Real long-term
answer. Now is a good time to Kurt. You were in process of getting your RPAL for the sole purpose of getting pistols and an AR-15.
Yeah.
And John and I and Steve and the guys there, we were putting together a package for you to gift to you when you did get it. But considering now that it's prohibited, I figured we'd show you.
You guys.
This was it. So Steve's got an upper that's what I was going to put on for you. But this is John's upper that he donated to the build.
No, that is quite literally the definition of a res dog rifle because it is literally.
Yeah, I like it. I like it.
Okay, so we threw this together. I had the lower. Mark sent us a trigger. I threw the trigger in. Spare parts just laying around. Just threw it together, and now it's prohibited. So, here he is.
That's awesome. Well, thanks, guys. Anyway.
Hey, Tony Bernardo.
Thanks for joining us, Tony.
How you doing, guys? Sorry I'm late, guys. I just came from the government briefing, which was just an exercise in wanting to set yourself on fire and run into the traffic. And,
I don't doubt it.
Oh, yeah. There's nobody that can do this just like that. So, you know, and I got off that and then had to get my equipment up and running on this new program. I haven't used this one before. So.
Well, sorry. I wish I could have coached you through it, Tony.
That's okay.
A bit of a last-second deal for us. So we sincerely appreciate you coming on and shedding some light about what transpired today. So why don't we start from square one?
Okay. The government banned 1,500 different firearms today.
Yeah.
Ask me if I'm impressed.
You sound like it.
Yeah. It's a big cry from the 9 they announced a couple of days ago, and they're determining that the 9, you see, they're heads of the family. That's how they describe them, heads of the family. So it's those and every single variant, and using the provisions in 117.15, the minister determined that these were no longer suitable for sporting use or hunting, despite the fact that for 25 years they've been issuing us ATTs to move these things to ranges for sporting use, and despite the fact that some of the firearms that are on the list are long-standing hunting firearms. Personally, myself, I've been hunting with a Mini 30 for the last 20 years.
Sure.
It's an absolutely wonderful little deer rifle, and it's really good at that job, and that's actually what it was made for. So,
yeah.
You know, I'd like to know. I had a thought about this earlier today. Thinking back to 2012, since they got rid of the long gun registry, right?
No.
What are the crime statistics since then? You know, like everybody goes back and cherry picks this long gun registry. What a bad thing it was that the conservatives did and all that kind of stuff. Okay, fine. Bring some fucking facts then.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in terms of the crime stats on it, aside from 2015, they just keep going down. Now, in 2015, they began a trend of going back up. Except that when you actually look at the stats, what you find is that the ones that are going back up are gang crime in large urban centers.
Yeah.
So, you're dealing with a huge increase in gang crime, which is skewing the stat, because without the gang crime, the stats are so low that it doesn't take much to skew them. You get a 20% increase in gang crime, and you get a corresponding 15% increase in the overall stat.
Right.
Right. So, the government cherry picks this stuff because they always try to make things sound the way they want to spin them, as opposed to the way they actually are.
Well, we were going through the list, Tony, and we found that 200 or so models mentioned are actual rocket launchers and things that you can't get in Canada. Also, they listed the M14 and M16 full auto variants as well. And those have been banned since, what's the year? At least 1993. But let's even go further.
But that's that posturing, right? It's just, hey, look what we've done. That whole fucking campaign slogan. Hey, look at what we've done. And that's that posturing. See what we're doing now, people, sheeple, whatever. It's I don't know. It's smoke and mirrors. I mean, in that perspective, right?
To a great degree. I mean, it was the early 70s that the full autos were made illegal, and so it's going on for them. But I mean, it just shows you who they're listening to, because the whole M14 thing. I don't know if you saw the rationales that were floating around a couple of days ago, clearly written by Police Surveillance, and those rationales state that the M14 was the firearm that was used in the Moncton shootings. Well, anybody who knows anything about the firearms knows it wasn't an M14. It was an M305.
Yeah.
Okay. But you see, the level of knowledge from our opponents is limited to, ooh, that gun looks yucky, let's ban it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you can see it reflected in that statement. So it's an interesting situation. And people who are valid 12.2 and 12.3 collectors who own M14s are now asking the question, wait a minute, does this change the way the grandfathering is being done on this stuff?
Yeah.
And we asked them today a lot of questions about grandfathering and how this whole system works, and quite frankly, they haven't got a clue.
Zero.
They have no idea. No idea. We asked them things like the mechanism that they're going to use with the CZ858. For example, the C-71 is passed. It's received royal assent. And while certain provisions, most of them, haven't come into force, it doesn't mean they're not there. It's passed into royal assent. So the CZ858 actually had sections added into into Section 12 of the Firearms Act, A, to permit grandfathering, and B, to permit that firearm and the Swiss Arms guns to have range usage.
That's right.
So now what happens? This is already the law, even though it hasn't been proclaimed. It's still already the law, and this is throwing their own stuff back at them, because quite frankly, when we've been dealing with the U.S. marking system for the last 14 years, they're the ones who are fond of saying, "Oh, well, this is already the law. It just hasn't been proclaimed yet, or put into force yet." And now we're turning about that and saying, look, this is what the law is on the CZ858, and you're telling us now that it may not happen. By what mechanism? Are you going to repeal those sections of C-71? And they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. This is the most idiotic government I have ever seen, and I've been doing this 25 years, so I've seen a lot of idiotic governments.
Yeah.
No,
for sure. We can, for lack of a better term, bitch and moan all we want, but what I know we talked about this on the phone, Tony, but what can we do as gun owners in the meantime?
The number one thing, support your orgs, okay? Support your organizations. I don't care which one you belong to, but support somebody, okay? Because everybody's working flat out for you. And you know, we were already getting a few pieces of hate mail saying that this is all your fault because you didn't, I don't know, pin Justin Trudeau and poke his eyes out with needles or something. I don't know. You know, I mean, you know what gun owners could be like. They can be a little acerbic and a little demanding at times. And, you know, so rather than sending off hate mail, send off a check, because the people are all working flat out for you. Every organization is working flat out. And they need your support. You know, we always bitch and moan about the fact that we don't have any organization that has the power of the NRA or the Second Amendment Foundation or Gun Owners of America. But that's because they got numbers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. You know, we had Sandy Froman, the former president of NRA, up to speak at one of our AGMs a few years ago. Sandy's a great lady. And she was president of NRA at the time. And she said the NRA doesn't have 5 million members because it's powerful. It's powerful because it has 5 million members.
That's right.
That's right.
Right? And you know, we've got 2.2 million Canadians out there. And quite frankly, you wouldn't get 500,000 of them that belong to every organization in Canada.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, you know, get your deadbeat friends to join up with one of the orgs. Well, I mean, I'm calling it straight. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
No, you're right.
Quite frankly, they have a lot of other people pulling the freight for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and like you
Sure.
guys, I know you guys are all members of the various organizations, and again, I don't care which one you're a member of, but be a member of one. And go to your deadbeat friends and say, listen, you slug, I'm paying for you. You know,
It's
get
very
off your
true.
butt, part with 45 lousy bucks. It's not even a box of Weatherby ammo, you know, and part with the $45 and at least support the people that are fighting on your behalf.
That's right.
That's the first thing you can do. The second thing you can do is talk to everybody you can talk to. Send letters to the media. Send letters to the politicians. Send letters to that useless waste of skin that we have up in 24 Sussex, okay? Actually, he's not there. He's at Rideau Cottage right now.
Wherever he may be.
Well, I understand every day he comes out for a briefing, and if he sees a shadow, he gets 6 more weeks of winter.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, you know, send letters to everybody. Send them to everybody. Please, don't do any more useless petitions. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know, a lot of guys will ask too, how useful are the letters? Because it's John. You went on a bit of a rant today on
Yeah,
Facebook.
I think over the last since 2000 and since the Liberal government was elected in 2015, I've written 1,000 letters to various members of Parliament, to the government, and I have literally received fewer than 15 written responses.
Yeah. I understand.
I've placed phone calls, like even my local MP. I've called him 5 or 6 times. One time he tried calling me back. You know, thanks. But when I tried to call him back again, I got cock blocked by the receptionist. Well, okay, fine then. You know what I mean? If that's how this is going to go, this is how it's going to go. At least my local MP is a conservative and he's not a liberal, so I'm not fighting that big dog anymore. But for the longest time, Goodale was my MP, and you would not believe the non-responses a guy got from that guy.
Well, that's just
brutal. But the best,
it's just the way you don't address it, you ignore it, it goes away.
Yeah. The best thing you can do is start writing. I don't know, writing letters seems like it's a waste of time, and but you know what else can we do? We're not
a waste of time.
We're not going to start, you know, an armed uprising because, well, let's face it, we're law-abiding gun owners, and that's by definition what we don't do. We don't do what we don't do them. We don't do this kind of things. We are about political action, but the political inaction from our politicians is what's really starting to create a lot of angst. I'll be honest with you.
Well, it certainly is. I mean, in everywhere in the country too. And you're right, we're law-abiding. We vote with ballots, not bullets.
That's right.
And that has to be said. But you know something, I can tell you from personal experience, and I've been doing this a long time, the letters do work, because what they do is the politicians count them. Like every time they get a letter in on a specific subject, it goes into a database. It's counted.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
when you do this, don't identify that you're with a political party of any kind, even if you are. Don't
Yeah.
do that. Okay, because they tend to discount those pretty quickly.
Yeah.
But you write a letter into the Prime Minister, say, listen, I'm a citizen of Canada, and here's what I think. They count those letters, they really do. Whereas if you've ever seen a petition go through the House of Commons, it's an eye-opening statement. What happens is at the end of question period, when the little red light on the camera goes off, everybody gets up out of the House of Commons and they leave and they go do the things that they have to do, except 3 or 4 people who are still in the House, and the Speaker who's still in the House, and a couple of pages. And the member says, I'd like to make a statement. The Speaker recognizes the member. He stands up and he says, we have a petition here from 23,000 of my constituents saying we don't want any more convenience stores in our city. And they say, thank you very much, member, for wherever. And the page takes the petition, they note it and shred it. That's it.
Yeah.
It's done. It's over. It's over at that point. What a total waste of time. And when C-71 came around and the petition started up, we told everybody, this is a waste of time. Don't write petitions. Don't do this, because what happens is when the petition goes out, somebody signs the petition or does it through the computer, whatever, either way, it doesn't matter. And they think they actually did something. They go, I did my part.
Yeah.
And they didn't do their part. They didn't do anything effective. Effective is even giving them a form letter. Remember, there's no charge for postage to an MP. Give them a form letter, any letter. People think it has to be sophisticated. You can take a cocktail napkin, take a crayon and write, you suck, because of Bill whatever, put it in an envelope, and they count that as a written letter. In fact, those letters could sometimes carry more weight than a beautifully crafted letter. And the reason being is that if somebody who doesn't have good literacy skills writes these letters, they look at it must be harder for them to write the letter than it is for somebody who's got a PhD.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So they count those letters. They read the letters. They count how many they have. They keep track of all this stuff. And the fact that somebody actually took the time to send them a piece of snail mail, it really does matter, guys. Now, these days, email's getting a lot of traction too, but bitching on Facebook and Twitter, might as well just go and yell at the clouds, guys.
Right.
Go yell at the clouds.
So I just want to interrupt here. Luke Godin says Trudeau just cemented his spot in the UN today. Now, is this speculation, or is there something that came out?
No.
Okay, good.
Nothing I'm aware of.
My heart gave another kick over.
Don't be surprised, but the thing with the UN is that they've already flat out said that Russia, the U.S., and Britain are all going to veto him as full China.
Oh, is that right?
No, yeah, his spot on the Security Council is virtually zero. He's just flying around the world giving away millions and millions of dollars of our money at a time when the country's going bankrupt.
Yeah.
So,
Well, why not, right?
We really do need a prime minister. We should get one.
Yeah, certainly. We've been without one for how long?
A while.
Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. A potato would be better than one we got now. So, like a literal potato, a russet potato.
At least it doesn't do anything,
That's right.
Yeah.
So, Tony, question for you: would there be any power to the provinces in this? I know Jason Kenney and Scott Moe have spoken out against it. Is there anything that can be done on a provincial level?
No.
Okay.
Not about the gun bans per se. If Trudeau manages to somehow fulfill his promise to let the municipalities decide this, then there's absolutely total authority goes over to the province, because there is no direct connect between the federal government and municipalities. There's nothing that connects them together. The province is in between. So anything the feds do has to go through the province in order for the municipality to do it. hence the reason why the Premier of Ontario can tell Mayor of Toronto that he can't have 47 city councillors.
Yeah, exactly. Okay.
Yeah. So our provinces are actually going to be pretty good on this issue, I think. I mean, we've got commitments now from Premier Kenney, from Premier Moe, from Premier Ford, certainly, who rose to the occasion many times in the last while. Yeah. And I think that we're in good shape with those guys, So.
Okay. Well, thank you, sir.
That's
Thanks
it.
for shedding light on it. I think that's pretty much it. We appreciate you making time for us. We will let you go unless you guys got anything else for him.
No, just rage.
Yeah. But not for
controlled rage.
But not for Tony.
No.
Yeah, I hope you don't have it for me, guys. I've been hustling myself, and I mean, there's so much still left to do. Remember that we have a 2-year amnesty effective today.
Yeah.
Well, is that government even going to be here in 2 years?
Well, that's really our only saving grace, isn't it? Or any semblance really of saving grace.
Well, it's funny. I called the CFO. Tony wasn't on the call when I said this earlier, but I called the CFO because I have a transfer pending, and I just wasn't sure what was going to happen now because the transfer that's pending is for something that's now prohibited instead of restricted. So that's a problem.
Sure.
Apparently the transfer went through and it's in the mail, and whenever I get it, I get it. But I can't do anything with it. They aren't going to. They're going to. My certificates are canceled for my restricted firearms that are affected, and I can't get rid of the range. And I'm not going to get a new certificate saying that they're prohibited. But I am going to get a letter from the RCP telling me what my options are. But that the person at the CFO's office, and I called the provincial CFO as opposed to the CFC, and they told me that they have no information right now to give me on what those options are going to be. Right now, my options are hold in place, lock them up in a safe or a cabinet that's suitable for storage. I cannot transfer them. I cannot transport them. I can sell them to somebody in the U.S. if I can find somebody that's able to import it into the U.S. I can do that, but then I basically have to wait until the plan is announced for what we're allowed, what the buyback or grandfathering or whatever, until that plan is announced and the legislation is passed in Parliament. I'm in legal limbo with these items now.
I think you'd be a fool to relinquish anything until that 2-year period is up. That would be the most
hang on to it.
Silly thing you could possibly do.
For sure.
Yeah, hang on to it to the very last minute.
Yep.
Like, is Parliament even sitting right now? They're on a hiatus right now, are they not?
It's an emergency sitting. They're sitting a skeleton crew down every couple of days. And I think the only thing they're really working on is COVID stuff right now. COVID
this is another thing I don't get about orders in council. Is that not reserved for emergencies? And they can just beam whatever they want? Oh.
There's 3 purposes for orders in council.
Okay.
The first is anything inconsequential. And the example I like to use is we're going to change the color of the paper from beige to taupe.
Yeah.
Okay. The second is anything that's time expedient, which is like, oh my God, the Chinese have landed on Vancouver Island. We need to mobilize the army right now. Okay. And the third thing is, thank you, Jean Chrétien, you can use it to ban firearms. That's it. Those are.
Wow.
Nice, eh? Yeah. So anyway, guys, I've got a interview that's starting in a couple of minutes.
Thanks for taking time on your day, Tony.
Anytime, and we'll get back together and do it again soon, right?
Sounds good.
Thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Open information, Tony, whenever you want to come on.
Okay, take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye now.
Bye now.
The CSSA guys, $45. Join them as much as you can.
Yep.
And we'll go from there. So thanks, Tony. Appreciate it, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
So there's that. Yeah, CSSA membership, $45. I'm a member, and I'm a provincial coordinator for the CCFR. Like, I believe in advocacy, right? And if you guys are strapped for cash, I get it, it's tough times, let us know. There are ways we can get you a membership, okay? There's things we, not necessarily us paying it, but I know a lot of guys that are sponsoring it. So just let us know, guys, because every dollar helps every organization, because the majority of them are volunteer based. And we've been saying since episode 1, join your organizations for shit like this that falls in. And you heard it from the horse's mouth, guys. We gotta support them now more than ever. Like, we got 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, this is the time, like I used to be one of those guys that sat around and I really should contribute and get involved and all that kind of stuff. But it just kept getting pushed down the list of life. Right. And this is now go time. We cannot, if you, if you treasure your firearms at all and our hobbies and our sports with those firearms, get on board.
We will not.
Otherwise, we will lose this.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sean. What was that?
Sorry, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not. Like Kurt. Like, for example, like the gun we built for you. Now you can't have it. I can't transport it to you. Like,
well, I don't appreciate it any less. I don't, but
road trip.
Yeah.
It's like,
I'll come and finger bang it in your bedroom there.
Oh,
whoa. Wait, Kate. I might have misheard that. But anyways, go on.
Anyway, so like, I don't know, guys. Do what you can. Hey, Len. It's today sucked.
I think it'd be a good idea for the RCMP to take a bit of a holiday as well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Just a short one.
Yeah.
Just a reset.
So I heard from somebody else that I know. I'm not going to mention their names, but they know quite a few Regina City police officers, and apparently the City of Police in Regina has told his officers that hence from here on, they are not enforcing the Canadian Firearms Act in the city of Regina. So
what does that mean exactly?
Well, basically, if you get pulled over and you have your now prohibited device in the car, they aren't going to ask if you have firearms in the car if you're a licensed firearms owner, right? So I don't know how far that goes or what happens. I think if you do something stupid with a gun, you're still going to get charged. There's just no two ways about that.
And should it be any other way?
No, but are they going to start looking into stuff? Right. Are they going to do any investigations if they suspect something, or if they pull you over? Are they going to ask those questions that they generally ask? Like, I've been pulled over for speeding, for instance, and license plate comes up that it's I'm the owner of the vehicle and I'm a licensed firearms owner. And not every time, but a few times I've been asked,
Sure.
Are there any firearms in the vehicle? And so far, every single time that question's been asked, the answer's been no, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not sure how far they're going to take it, or
but even if they ask, you don't have to disclose that, unless you're breaking the law or whatever. Like they don't have any right to search your vehicle unless you give express consent. There's that. So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Anyway,
let's be safe. Let's do what we have to do to maintain our status as firearms owners. Let's do what we have to do to comply with the law. That does not include giving up your property at this stage of the game. We have 2 years, like Tony was saying.
Yeah.
Let's make sure our stuff is securely stored. Maybe go the extra mile and just say you have a restricted firearm that you keep in a safe. Maybe throw a trigger lock on it just to be double secret probation safe.
Well, that's the thing. You're absolutely right, John. Like, we still have to operate within the law, and probably a little bit plus. We have to be those examples of what the gun culture is really fucking like in Canada.
Get a copy of this. Well, we'll post it to our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Let's maybe get that on the website too. Somebody send a link to that to Oscar, so we can get that on the website so that we can our listeners at least can have access to the document, because I spent an hour and a half today on the Canadian Gazette website trying to get the damn document to download. I eventually got it to download. I was able to print it. I then scanned it and made it into a PDF that I could share. And then just as I was finishing up the scanning, I got an email with that. the actual document, like a
There
real
is
one.
verbiage in there that now AR uppers are a prohibited device as well.
That's right.
And they're probably going to expand that as well to include variants as well. So
That's right.
it's not done yet, guys. So
It's not just the lowers. Our lowers aren't just prohibited. Now the uppers are also a prohibited device. So you can't take the upper off your firearm and transport that anymore. That's transportation of a prohibited device. That is a 10-year mandatory minimum sentence.
it's just like having an unpinned mag.
It's just like having a silencer. It's a prohibited device. Period. Dot. So let's just be careful, guys.
Can we address Chris's
Sure.
statement there?
Yes,
Sorry.
To search your house, they have to give you 24-hour advance.
So if you have more than 10 firearms, there's a provision in the legislation that the Chief Firearms Office can schedule an appointment and come and examine your storage.
Okay, but isn't there a however there in terms of danger?
They have to call and make an appointment. They don't have to have a reason. They have to call and schedule an appointment. The only time that they do not have to call and schedule an appointment is if there is a public safety concern. That's the red flag laws that everybody's been talking about. Well, right now, as it sits in Canada, if you're a firearms owner and somebody makes a public safety complaint, expect the RCMP or the municipal police in your area to come to your house, knock on your door, and ask to see your firearms. And there's nothing you can do to stop them if they're there in regards to a public safety complaint.
Right.
If they're just there because you got pulled over for drunk driving last week and they want to come look at your firearms, you are perfectly within your rights to say, no, thank you. How about you supply a warrant or come back after you make an appointment? Now,
that's something that's very little known too.
You have to give them access. They have to give you 24 hours notice. They can call you and tell you, we're going to be at your house. Just say right now it's 4 p.m., right? They can call you and say, hey, tomorrow at 4:30, I want to come look at your storage. You cannot say no to that as a Canadian firearms owner if you have more than 10 firearms. If you have less than 10 firearms, then there's nothing that they can't make that request, right?
Right.
So you have to have 10.
Like turning down a breathalyzer, right? It's the same sort.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Now, I would say, have you got a warrant? Why are you coming? And if they say it's within our rights to do this, there's nothing you can say about it. There's no warrant required.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's in the legislation. It's in C68. Now, here's a funny thing that Tony brought up that I was going to touch on, but I thought it was funny. Back when C68 and C17 were first enacted in the early 90s, one thing that they had to do to make firearms part of the criminal code was property right now in Canada is run through it's the provincial government that handles property. Firearms were considered property. So they had to take property away from the province and put it into the federal jurisdiction. And that's the problem with the laws that were changed then, is now we don't have property rights enshrined in the Canadian Rights of Freedoms. So that's a problem. So now the Trudeau government wants to take firearms and give that power back to municipal governments. Well, the easiest way for them to do that is to repeal C68 and C17. Because that's the legislation that made it the federal government's mandate.
Right.
So if they repeal that legislation, it automatically goes back to the provinces and the municipalities to administer as they see fit.
Mm-hmm.
So it was one thing that I thought was really funny, that the federal liberal governments are the ones who created this quagmire in the first place, but they're also the ones that took the ability to control those items away from the provinces, and now they're talking about giving it back to the province.
Yeah, well, they're the ones most above the law as well.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, let's address Chris here again. Do they have to tell you that they're there for a complaint?
If they don't make an appointment, then yes.
Yeah.
They don't have to tell you who made the complaint. They just have to tell you that they're because they received a public safety complaint and they're done.
That's right. Stand aside, please. Chris Wheaton now says, unless you're a collector with status now.
It's a different kettle of fish entirely. The collector, just like a firearms business owner, has to allow them access anytime they come to the door. Anytime of day or night, they can come to your door and say, hey, I want to look at your storage. And
so how in the fuck is that not stringent enough? with this entire thing. Like, you think about what we've just been talking about for the last 10 minutes, the stringent nature of all this, the control that they already have, and now they want to pile on more. Like, this is just fucking insane.
Yeah.
So it's not even reasonable. And I don't know what kind of stupidity has run across this entire country. But I can tell you, my 14-year-old son, who is so much a city boy, knows more than the people that are eating this shit up.
And inherently, that's the issue: is lack of education and lack of knowledge on the existing laws. And we can only do so much, but we have to take it upon ourselves to educate the non-gun owning public,
for sure,
to the mandates that are already there. Case in point, and part of the reason I deleted my Facebook off my apps today is, there was a thread by a non-gun owner in Regina here who's a very prominent musician. Okay, and he went on and said, just started the debate, and going through that thread, at the time there were 272 comments. 90% of them agreed with the ban on assault weapons. That's all they did.
Yep.
Wow.
No clue. Nobody has any idea of what the existing laws are, and and what the regulations are, and because it's not a priority to the majority of Canadians, and all that this legislation is doing.
Because there's squad automatic weapons everywhere. Fuck, every farmer has one.
That's right.
You bet.
Or I'm going to take my AR-15 with a Magpul D50 and go blow something up or whatever.
Sure.
Like it's ridiculous, and it's virtue signaling at its purest form. Even reading or watching the CBC live stream of the announcement, Krista Freeland brought up the gender-based studies of this, and
no kidding,
and how
what the fuck,
this is out to protect women, whereas women are the largest growing demographic of the shooting sports. She has no clue about one of the founders of Project Maple Seed is a woman.
How can you say that? She's a woman after all. You're not.
The dozens of CCFR sponsored ladies events that happen every year. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely asinine and ignorant and irresponsible of our government with our taxpayers to do this stuff. And okay, yes, they're going to take our guns. That pisses me off to no extent. But what it's going to do is it's going to ramp up the debt, which is at an all-time high right now.
Yeah.
And guys, I always said I started this podcast not to get political, not to start black pilling, if that makes sense. But the debt's at an all-time high, all-time adjusting for inflation. That includes the debt that we accrued during World War I and World War II. So let's keep that in mind. And it's going to be my son, who was on the podcast earlier, Kirk and John. It's going to be your boys and their grandkids that are going to have to pay it off. And that is absolutely asinine and bullshit. And the irresponsible nature of the economical spending of this company, or of this whatever, that are pocketing, it's bullshit. And like, what can we do to stop it? We got to vote these clowns out, because it's
the only way in this system.
Guns are a tip of the iceberg, and
for sure.
It's just ridiculous. We're already taxed out the wazoo, like 35 to 55% on income tax. Like,
they actually say the average middle class Canadian pays 48% of their income to taxes. Period.
Yep.
Between sales taxes, municipal taxes, income taxes, taxes on the taxes, and those were pre.
Not enough for my precious.
Yeah, well, that was before the carbon tax came in, though, too. Right?
See, Russ says debt started by his daddy. That's wrong, because we actually paid off his debt.
You're fucking right, we did.
Stephen Harper did. And then, yes, there was a slight deficit when he came in, but now it's fucking insane.
We were down to, like, I think it was $22 billion in total debt.
I don't even think it was a B. I think it was a million.
No, it was B. It was B. It was $20 billion, which is fuck all, because the Canadian GDP is way more than that. Yeah. Now he's in how many years in office? 5 years in office. We are now $260 billion in debt,
Yeah.
And with this, if this thing goes through, that's another $3 or $4 billion right there, just buying back the guns that we already paid for. You know what the really shitty thing is? I can see them doing this too. The dirty, slimy cocksuckers. They're gonna give me 5 cents on the dollar for my AR-15.
Sure they are.
Yeah. And
Because
then
you
I'm
don't
gonna
have
pay
any
for it.
choice, John.
Yeah, but then I'm going to have to declare it on my taxes as fucking income, the dirty cunts. So
Oh, yeah, I never even thought about that.
getting started.
Absolutely.
Oh, there, okay. Dennis Lair, Go Ballistic Gunsmithing says it's political when they start taking your way of making a living.
Yeah, no
Dennis,
shit.
Exactly, 100%. You know what I do?
How many businesses
I
will this
work on
affect?
M14 pattern rifles, and that's
Yeah.
all I fucking do. I've got $8,000 sitting right there that is worth fucking $0 right now because
Right.
I can't fucking sell it. I can't transport it. I can't transfer it to somebody else. The only option I have right now is to try and get that to the U.S. somehow. And do you know how much that thing's worth in the U.S.? Best case scenario, about $3,000
Yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah.
Plus the lawyers' fees and import fees and export fees and you fucking name it. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and
not to mention the fact that any of your M305s cannot go to the States.
That's right.
because the Rinkos. But
That's
then
right.
also,
That can, because that receiver was made in the U.S.
Okay.
and
Yeah.
exported to Canada. So now I have to re-export it back.
well, John, why don't we bring up
Sorry.
why don't we bring up the fact that now our next draw was going to be for a high-end M14.
Well, I was just finished assembling and was getting ready for Cerakote, a gunning around TACCOM 2020 edition M14, and we were going to try and raffle that off. I think our plan was to sell tickets at TACCOM as well as online before TACCOM, and raffle it off in the last day, in the last hour at TACCOM. That's not going to happen now.
Nope.
Right?
Nope.
It can't happen, right?
No, you can't even take that out of your house.
And what was that gun going to be worth, John?
I think retail value on that rifle is going to be close to $6.5, probably by the time it was all said and done.
So a $6,500 gun that we were going to give away based on the ticket sales, which would have been around $20-25 a piece, same package as before, that you guys are getting gypped on now.
Well, they're not getting gypped. I'm getting a.
You're getting bent over without lubricant. These guys don't have.
I've got all this money tied up in parts now, and I have no way of recouping my investment. Right, and this is the part, and this I don't think people understand. Like, as a firearms business owner, I try not to keep too many parts in. And now here's the downside: I don't keep too many parts in stock because parts are expensive. And the flip side of that coin is it takes 6 months to get anything for an M14 into Canada from wherever the hell I'm getting it from. So I have to keep some stuff. And I started stockpiling more and more and more parts. And I got a lot of money invested in M14 parts. What the hell can I do with them now?
Yeah.
Smelt them down and make bullets.
Well, I can't even do that. There's mostly steel parts.
Yeah.
I wonder how soft is aluminum. No.
So I don't know when Will Benoit came on, but he's asking what's our next step. I think we went into this fairly deep. Right?
You got to check out. You got to back up, buddy. Once the live stream's over, you got to rewatch the beginning and go from there.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do is you're going to
join the association.
Everybody,
Yep.
join all the firearms orgs. I don't care if it's your
fuck the history, fuck the personalities. They all do.
That's right. They all do something. They're all going to have somebody's ear. They're going to be joggling people's elbows saying, hey, listen to me. If you can afford it, you know what? I don't care if you can afford it or not. Join a firearms org. Join all of them. If you can afford it, please donate a little money to them. Pick one and
sell one of your guns or they'll all be gone.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, for some of us, all of the guns are already gone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
for the cost of feeding your family a large pizza, large pizza, that's what you're giving up to help. And you're not even giving it up. You're investing in your future. What's going on. Yeah, like, guys, now is the time. It's, we've been harping on this for 29 shows or whatever it is. And, now more than ever, we need, and if you cannot afford it, okay, we're not asking you to spend that money, but get in touch with us and we will find a way to get you a membership. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Get in touch with us, info@gunningaround.com, and we will find somebody to sponsor. One of us will do it, or fucking whoever will sponsor a membership, and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's been a lot of questions like this one here, Robert McMorrin. Do any of you know if a 375 Shytac improved falls between the 10,000 joules? There's been a lot of questions come across.
So what you have to do
rifles
is Google online how to calculate muzzle energy of a firearm. There's an online calculator that pops up. It's real easy to use.
Yeah.
7,374 foot-pounds of energy is 10,000 joules. So do the math, and depending on what weight of 375, I don't know what a 375 Shytac is velocity is like with a really heavy, say a
350s, and I
don't know what the heavy bullets are, but the heavier the bullet, the faster it goes. It's mass times velocity squared.
Thanks, Einstein.
And then so I tried doing it the hard way, and I finally said screw it, and I googled it. A 50 BMG is 1,000 foot-pounds of energy with a 750 grain projectile going 2650 is 11,000 joules. I'll put it that way. A 338 Lapua, a 300 grainer going 2950, which I think you're hard pressed to find a 338 Lapua that could do that, is about 1,000 foot-pounds of energy under the 10,000 joules.
Okay. I'm going to send Oscar that.
Sean said he was going to do it, Oscar. Jeez, make him do his job.
Well, here, I'm going to send him the list now.
Yeah, please do. Okay, do you guys have any more questions? We're over an hour here. I said this was going to be a mini cast, so.
It is a mini cast.
Well, we normally go an hour and a half. So.
Okay, I got to go. I got a guy coming by to pick up some lead. So.
Okay.
What? No. You're not don't get rid of the lead. We need that lead.
No.
What are you doing?
I'm not getting rid of that lead.
These are the end of times, man.
Okay, good.
I've got several tons of lead. I'm pretty sure we can spare 100 pounds, you cheap cocksuckers.
No, we can't.
Precious.
We can't shoot our ARs anymore anyway.
Okay,
if anybody knows anything about swaging bullets, send us an email at info@gunningaround.com.
Andre.
Yeah.
Andre. Goodbye to King of 2 Miles. Probably not. Well, unless you're shooting 50, but that's still on. So cool. Okay, guys.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Thanks for coming out.
See you tomorrow. Tomorrow, 9:30.
Sorry for Commie Friday.
Yeah. 9:30 Central. Call sign 66. Miles and a bunch of people. So.
Yeah, it's going to be a shit show tomorrow too. I'm going to be drunk.
Oh, I'm getting blitzed.
I think that's appropriate.
You get a C-bomb. You get a C-bomb. You get a C-bomb. We all got C-bombs.
Later, guys.
All right, get out of here.